Okay, so this is the adjustment video for the Duo Adapt harness. Now the Duo Adapt harness has the double ring system, the cinch system on the top. So this is what's gonna go on your dog's back. So this is where most of the adjustments for the neck are gonna happen. So here we have quite a large opening for the neck. So let's say we wanna make the neck smaller. So how are we gonna do that? So first, identify where the buckle is here. So the buckle for the adjustment on the Adapt is at the top there. It's on the right-hand side. You can see it there. And you'll see some webbing stored in a pocket right here on the top. So you can pull that out. So I'm gonna undo these just so we can see this all a little bit clearer. So I'll adjust it like that. So now you can see very clearly, here is the buckle for the adjustment and here is the excess webbing. So here's the entire system, the shoelace-like system that you've got going around. Sorry, it's out of the camera. You see it's going around. Now, if I want to make the neck opening smaller, how am I going to do that? Okay, so again, if I want the neck to be smaller, this webbing tail has to get longer. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push this through the buckle, like this. So I'm just making a big loop here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill that loop in. So here is the excess webbing that's creating the opening for the harness. I'm gonna push this in. So I'm forming another loop on the inside. So you can see that other loop forming on the inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this out. This is the inner loop. And basically I'm taking slack up from this entire system. So it's kind of butting into its own body right now. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. And then I'm gonna take this outer loop here to take up this slack. I want this slack to continue along this outer piece here. So I'm gonna pull this here. You can see that inner loop now has gotten really small. And now I'm gonna pull this outer loop here. So again, you've got a ton of excess webbing. That means the neck opening is getting smaller. Okay, so now you can see how uneven it is, right? So what I do is I pull it open like that. Let me make sure this is closed. It's just a little bit easier to manipulate when this is closed. And then what I can do is I can pull on the ring. I hold the neck section like this. This is the bottom where the neck is. I can hold that and then I'll pull on the ring. Then you'll see, you'll see the whole system will contract. Okay, so now what I do is I just slowly open it up and I kind of make sure that each end, this end here and this end here are kind of even length. So you want it to basically be even. Okay, so now I've got this huge long length of webbing. What I can do is I can fold it up like this. Folding. Sometimes, again, this ends up being a ton of webbing. Then I'm gonna store it in the pocket right here on top. You can see this pocket, and it goes all the way across the body there. So I can just stuff it in there. If you have trouble, get something like this, screwdriver, pencil, pen, anything kind of solid, and you can just help shove it into that pocket there. You just want everything to lay kind of nice and flat. And the more you fiddle with it, the better you'll get at it. So if that's not sitting in properly, maybe I give it a little length here, then take this big folded chunk and throw it in there. There we go. Now it's laying nice and flat in there. I can just kind of shove it in there. Okay, so that is how I made the neck smaller. Now again, I discussed this in the other direct video. You've got a safety end here. This sewn end creating this excess piece right here. This is a safety precaution. We have two safety precautions here. We have this buckle here, which has teeth in it. If you can see those teeth in there, right in there, that really grabs the webbing and it prevents it from backing out. And then we have this piece. If in some unforeseen circumstance, we don't know what it would be, but this webbing starts to back out, if you don't have this sewn piece, it could potentially come out of this buckle and your dog could get free. And that's definitely what we don't want. So you must keep this end sewn. So that's why we do not recommend you cut this end off. We do not recommend that you cut this webbing short. The only time we recommend you cutting the webbing short is if you have some way of sewing another end piece in. So if you wanted to cut this short to here and you have a home sewing machine and you can fold this webbing over and sew it right here, that would be okay, because then you would have your safety end here and the buckle with teeth, which is going to help prevent any sort of backing out of this harness or of this webbing, so the harness will come apart. Okay, so with that said, I want to make this opening a little bit bigger. So if that's what I want to do, this huge piece of webbing here, I need to make this shorter. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So again, I've got my buckle here. I'm going to push this webbing tail through the buckle. Push it like this. Okay, I make a big loop like that. Then I'm going to pull in an inner loop like this. And I'm going to pull on this one right here. And I'm going to make this outer loop much smaller. And then I'm not going to pull on this end with the sewn end. I'm going to pull on the piece of webbing below it right here. You can see what's happening. I'm adding more length to the inner part of the harness. So now I can just pull this back out like that. And now what I'm going to do is, again, same thing. I'm going to pull the harness apart. And then I'm going to hold the end and I'm going to cinch it shut. Sorry about that. I'm going to cinch it shut. So now you can see it's cinched shut, and you can see how long this tail is. So most of the webbing is here. Now what I can do when I reopen the harness, I can do it nice and slow, and I can do it to make this end of the neck opening and this end of the neck opening the same length. So it's nice and even. And again, watch for twists and turns in here. They can get twisted up. You want to try and keep them nice and flat. Keep them nice and flat. Okay, so now again, I'm going to show you how to store. I'm just going to fold this end. Fold it like that. Now what I don't do is I don't fold it all the way to the end to the buckle right here and then try and stuff it in. I fold it and I leave maybe about an inch between the folded chunk and an inch here, because that is going to fold over the buckle. So then I fold it over the buckle and I'm going to stuff it into the pocket right here. And you can see then right there how nicely that sits in the pocket. And you can, again, you can fold it, you can stuff it even deeper in there if you like. Okay, so there you have a smaller neck opening for the Adapt harness. Now again, we discussed this in the direct video, but I can show you how to adjust the chest area. So I usually do that with the harness unclipped. So let's say I want to make the chest, or before I get into that, we have pockets down here too. So if I pull this webbing out from here, you can see I've stored this big chunk of webbing in this inner pocket right here. So that's how we do a lot of the storage with this end. But let's say we want to make this longer. It's too small for the dog, so I want to make it longer. I can push this through this tri-glide this way. I'm going to continue that here. I'm going to keep pulling it out. And then I'm going to pull the clip to the end. So now you can see how much longer this is getting. And then you can slide the tri-glide up. The tri-glide just helps manage all this webbing. Now I can take this end, put the rest of it back in the pocket, like that. Or what you can do with the chest buckles is you can actually cut these ends. What I would do is get a very sharp pair of scissors, cut that end, and then there'll be a frayed end. And what you do is you get a lighter and you just melt the end of the plastic. So how you do it like this, I got the lighter here and you just melt the end. So this is basically plastic. So you just get a nice smooth end so you don't have a lot of the frayed edges. Like you can see some of the fraying right there. Just melt that down and you'll have a nice clean edge, and then you won't need to stuff it in that pocket at the bottom. Now again, if you want to make this shorter, real simple, I think we're all pretty familiar with these kind of backpack buckles or these clip buckles. You just pull on this end, you can see it getting shorter, and then I'm just going to push the rest of this through this tri-glide here. So now you can see how short this is, and again, I've got this huge long piece here, and I can store that excess piece in this pocket right here. And I'll show you, I can just do that really fast. I'm just going to adjust it so it's a decent size. Okay, move the tri-glide up to there. And then I'm going to fold this. There you go. You got the end stored in that pocket at the bottom. So that is how we adjust the adapt harness, both the neck opening and the chest opening. And again, you can see a little twist right here. Kind of make sure that these all stay nice and flat so you don't get too many twists and turns going on. You can see how flat those are. This piece is flat on top of this piece, and this piece goes flat on top of your dog's body. Great, thanks.